Manchester United aren't last anymore. And the thing is, they did all of that without even playing this weekend. I told you this is a special club. And because of West Ham's loss over the weekend, technically West Ham are now last because they're also on 0 points, but they played a game more. They have the same goal difference as Manchester United. I told you things were gonna get better. This is the first W of many until you guys play against Liverpool tonight, which is obviously not gonna end very well for you guys. And I had to give you guys some positive things because we've been talking about Manchester United for these last 3 weeks and finally something positive has happened. So obviously I had to inform you guys. I can take myself serious. Anyways, we're going to talk about this weekend's games and obviously we're also going to talk about the game that's coming up today, Manchester United against Liverpool. Both teams didn't start the season off very well, but I mean it's gonna change for either one of those teams or they're gonna end up with a draw, which will still be positive for Manchester United because they will finally have at least 1 point in the Premier League. But anyways, first we're going to talk about the games that happened this weekend because that's a little bit easier to talk about because stuff actually happened. So without further ado, let's get right into these games. And we're starting off with Leeds against Chelsea. Leeds won 3-0. Chelsea absolutely horrendous on the day. And finally, after 2 weeks of slating Manchester United, we finally have a new team to absolutely just completely criticize because Chelsea, what the was that? But before we're going to talk about Chelsea, Leeds. Also, I don't understand this. How do you guys already have 7 points? These guys are literally level on points with Manchester City, Tottenham and Brighton. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Right now, they're in third. I know it's only after 3 games, but I was pretty sure that these guys were going to have a horrible start to the season. But I mean, fair play. Jesse Marsch is clearly doing a good thing with Leeds so far. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it definitely helps that Erdegaard Mendy made that huge mistake. I mean, it was a routine clearance. What the was that, Mendy? And Chelsea just didn't come back from that. Brendan Ayres and Rodrigo scored before halftime, and after the break, Jack Harrison scored the 3rd goal to absolutely humiliate Chelsea. But to be fair, Chelsea didn't start the game off very bad. They had a few chances, but they didn't score them. And after Mendy's mistake, Leeds scored 2 quick successive goals. And that was it. That was the game wrapped up and done. Koulibaly got sent off this game, and if you ask me personally, I don't think that fits in the theme of being the security of Chelsea's defense. Because in order to be that, you actually have to be on the pitch, not getting sent off. So because of the red card, he missed the latter part of the game, and also next week he's not gonna play. So yeah, all in all, just a terrible week for Chelsea and a great one for Leeds. Like I said, they're in 3rd, absolutely ridiculous. So well done to Leeds, horrible for Chelsea. Let's move on to the next game. And the Leeds versus Chelsea game was already quite interesting, but the best game of the weekend undoubtedly was Newcastle versus Manchester City. Gundogan opened the score early on after 5 minutes, but then Newcastle just absolutely came back. And within 10 minutes after halftime, they were 3-1 up. But luckily for Manchester City, they still had human goal machine Erling Haaland, who scored the 3-2, and just 3 minutes after, Bernardo Silva scored the equalizer. And after the match, Pep Guardiola said that this game was proof of how hard it is to compete in the Premier League. He said, the Premier League is so difficult for everyone, and we know that we have to live this kind of experience to realize how amazing we've done in these last 5 years. Weird flex, I mean, pointing out how good you guys are, I mean, we all know it. You're the best team in the Premier League. You have been the best team for the last 5 years. You don't have to point that out. It's basically common knowledge. Everybody knows it. So Guardiola was a little bit butthurt, but anyways, they dropped points for the first time this season. Probably the reason why Guardiola was a little bit butthurt, but anyways, it was a great game. Newcastle were also pretty good, and especially Alain Saint-Maximin. He absolutely terrorized Kyle Walker, and this guy clearly was the man of the match. He had 2 assists, he created 4 chances, won 6 duels. All in all, just a ridiculous day for Saint-Maximin. Like I said, clearly the man of the match. And for Newcastle, this draw meant that they are now on 5 points, which clearly isn't bad after just 3 games. But for Manchester City, this meant that they are not top of the table anymore, as they are now on 7 points together with Leeds and Tottenham. And in first, we have a different team, and it's been a long time because Arsenal are now first in the Premier League. For the first time in a while, it's not because of the alphabetical order of the table, it's basically because Arsenal fully deserved it. They're playing nice football, they're scoring a lot of goals, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Arsenal deserve to be top of the table. Erdegaard scored a brace and William Saliba grabbed another in a 3-0 away win against Bournemouth. And Gabriel Jesus once again was one of the best players on Arsenal's side. And I mean, I told you guys, I'm gonna say this every single week that this guy performs, because the 45 million pounds that Arsenal paid for this guy is an absolute steal. Fam, the sheer amount of goals and assists that this guy already has given Arsenal is absolutely ridiculous. And I personally think that this guy is gonna get even better throughout the season. And Gabriel Jesus played really well, sure, but Martin Erdegaard clearly grabbed the headlines with his 2 goals. Well, I'm saying that, but William Saliba absolutely scored a stunner as well. And if you haven't seen the goal, go watch it, and especially go check out Zinchenko's reaction after the goal. But coming back to Martin Erdegaard, who scored 2 goals on the day, which was a pretty rare event in itself, because the last time that happened was in October 2014. That's almost 8 years ago, and at the time, Erdegaard was only 15 years old. It's ridiculous to think that this guy has been in the game for such a long time, and he's still super young. And for Bournemouth, this just was a terrible day. In this game, they became the first home side not to have a shot or touch in the opposite box in the first half of a Premier League game since Bournemouth against Manchester City in 2019. So they're kind of familiar with this stuff, but it definitely isn't a good sign because it shows that there's a big discrepancy between Arsenal and Bournemouth. I just realized that I'm saying it like it's something crazy, but it makes a lot of sense. So the Cherries probably expected this loss. But yeah, at least these guys already won 1 game in the competition. That means that they're in 14th with 3 points. And for Arsenal, like I said, this was a great weekend. They're now top of the table. And like I said, absolutely fully deserved. And now we're moving on to the other London club, Tottenham Hotspur, who won 1-0 against Wolves. And because of their draw against Chelsea last week, they don't have the full score in the competition anymore. So just like City, Leeds and Brighton, they're on 7 points. And let's be honest, where would these guys be without Harry Kane? Because other than securing the 3 games for Tottenham, this guy racked up a bunch of other records. Harry Kane now has the most Premier League goals for a single club. He now surpassed Sergio Aguero with 185. He also scored Tottenham's 1000th home goal in the Premier League, and this was his 250th goal in all competitions for Tottenham, which is a big milestone, and it clearly was a special one. And in the second half, Spurs were a little bit unlucky. After 63 minutes, Son almost scored a goal, and later on, new signing Richarlison also almost grabbed his first goal for the club. And especially in the first half, Wolves made it very difficult for Spurs, but in the second half, Tottenham were just way better, and obviously Harry Kane saved the day for them. So this loss means that Wolves are still on only 1 point in 17, and like I said, Spurs are joint second with 7 points. And then this weekend had a lot of exciting games, and Fulham against Brentford was another example of that. Fulham went up 2-0 pretty quickly, but just before halftime Brentford got 1 back, and in the 71st minute they scored the equalizer. After that it stayed 2-2 for quite a while, but then in the last minute Alexander Mitrovic grabbed the winner for Fulham. And after a not so good weekend for Mitrovic personally last week, he came back with another goal and a winning goal this time around. This puts him on 3 goals in the competition already, so definitely not a bad start for him. And not a bad start for Fulham either, because they are now in 7th with 5 points. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have expected them to be way lower down the table. And Brentford are back down on earth after their 4-0 win against Manchester United last weekend. They almost secured a point, but they gave it away in the last minute, obviously. It shows that the team is hard, but unfortunately this weekend for them it wasn't enough. But for West Ham so far, this entire season has been pretty disappointing. Because for them it was just another game and another loss against Brighton this time around. And I know that Brighton were good last season, but they're just surprising me week in, week out. And I have to say, Graham Potter is doing a great job over in Brighton. The club won because McAllister scored a penalty in the first half, and after the break Trossard grabbed another goal to secure the 2-0 victory for Brighton. And like I said, so far this season, West Ham are just completely out of it. I mean bro, the first half, they didn't manage to get a single shot on target, which in my opinion is pretty pathetic, especially if you're playing a sport where goals actually matter. But later on in the game, West Ham at least got a few opportunities, but it was already way too late then, and Roberto Sanchez had a few great saves, so that clearly helped Brighton. But Jesus Christ, West Ham are still without a single point and also without a single goal this entire season. And no wonder that they were booed off at the final whistle. Because personally, if I was a West Ham fan, I would be upset too. Because imagine watching 270 minutes of your team and they just completely fail to score a single goal. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have big expectations for West Ham, just like me. But these 3 performances so far this season definitely don't live up to the expectation. And another team that so far didn't really live up to the expectation. Jesus Christ, I'm being very positive today, aren't I? Aston Villa lost 3-1 to Crystal Palace, and this meant that this is their 2nd loss of the season, so they're only on 3 points so far. But a Wilfried Zaha brace and a goal from Jean-Philippe Mateta secured the win for Crystal Palace. And yo, I was absolutely surprised by this, because what is going on in the Premier League? Because right now, the top scorers of the Premier League are Wilfried Zaha, Rodrigo from Leeds, and Mitrovic from Fulham. We've got all of this firing power like Haaland, Kane, Gabriel Jesus, Cristiano Ronaldo, but no, Mitrovic, Rodrigo and Zaha are the top scorers in the Premier League. I don't understand. But this win actually was very much needed for Crystal Palace, because this was their first of the Premier League season, which means that they are now on 4 points, so just one more than Aston Villa, but it's definitely an alright start, getting a win and a draw from your first 3 games. And the same goes for Nottingham Forest, who grabbed a point against Everton this weekend. Both of the goals in this game fell after the 80th minute, with Brennan Johnson scoring for Nottingham Forest and Damari Gray grabbing a late equalizer for Everton. And the last result of the weekend that we're going to talk about is Leicester City 1, Southampton 2. 2 goals from Che Adams were enough to secure the victory for Southampton. Leicester grabbed at least one back with a free kick from James Maddison, so Southampton finally got their first win of the season, as they're now also on 4 points. And things are getting a little bit more worrying for Leicester City. And I mean, this is the 3rd week that I'm making this video, and still Leicester City didn't sign a single player. And judging from the results, I think that they should probably look into that. Those were all the results from this weekend, but we're going to talk a little bit about the game that's happening tonight between Manchester United and Liverpool. Both of them didn't start the season off pretty well. And I personally think that Liverpool is going to get back on track again today. Because Manchester United, I mean, they are an absolute shambles right now. They could have done with Casemiro in this game, but obviously he still isn't registered, so he can't play yet. But the only thing that boasts in Manchester United's favor is that both games against Brentford and Brighton were against 2 very annoying sides, if I may say so, because it's pretty difficult to play against those 2 organized sides. But if you just look at both teams, Liverpool is just way better than Manchester United right now. So I'm predicting a win for Liverpool, and Manchester United is going to absolutely panic. They're going to bid 100 million for Anthony. And either way, if it happens, we will talk about it on Wednesday in my next video. So guys, as always, be sure to like, share and subscribe. Click on my videos on the end screen right now, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.